Good morning. Thanks to everybody for jumping on, and welcome to the Pro Remodeler series for Bestbath, where we're going to discuss bathroom remodel obstacles, and opportunities in a changing world. My name is Chanel Wilson. I'm the marketing manager here at Bestbath. And just a little light housekeeping before we get started. We do have a chat feature. Feel free to use that and interact with each other and ask me questions. I'll keep an eye on that chat. We also have a Q&A, and at the end of this presentation, Jason and Jeff Reynolds, who I'll introduce in a minute, will go over some of those questions and answers. This presentation will be recorded, and we'll be sending that out in an email after the presentation. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jason Williams. He is the regional sales manager here at Bestbath. He's been with us for over 11 years, and he has the best hair in the game. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Chanel. Of course, I'm glad you put my bullet up there about my hair. Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm really excited to be a part of the Bestbath Pro Remodeler series episode. I think this will be episode 4, if I remember right. I think we've got a few of these that you've done so far, and I'm excited to talk about some of the obstacles and opportunities in this environment we're in. And I'm really excited that Jeff's going to be joining us. Hopefully, for some reason, you guys thought it'd be a good idea to give me control of the computer. So I'm really going to do my best to not butcher this presentation and mess up with too many technical difficulties, but please bear with us if we do run into them. We all know they do happen. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to go over some of the pandemic's impact on the remodeling market. I know we've all felt some of the impact from the current pandemic we're all going through, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about some of the short-term opportunities, areas of things that we can really just go after right now, as well as what to focus on for some of that long-term growth opportunities and what you can work towards. I'm excited. I want to make sure I get the second. Jeff's already popped on with his camera, and I want to make sure I get to introduce him real quick. Jeff is president of Reynolds and Myers. They're a consulting firm that specializes in the building materials industry. And we've personally at Bestbath been partnered with them for over 6 years, and just have had an amazing experience with them. And we're really excited to have Jeff take some time out and be a part of this presentation. So hi, Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm amazing. Thanks for having me. Jason, very kind words.
I love your backdrop.
Hey.
Official, looks great. Let's dive in, let's have some fun and have a conversation about the current market and where we're at. So, what we did is partnered with Reynolds and Myers, and they were kind enough to send out a survey. And, we sent out a survey to over 100 plus dealers and trade professionals to really talk about what they're experiencing in this environment. When we do this, this practice allows us to get more information from, our partners out there, as well as people that we're not even partnered with, that are out there working directly with customers and end users. And you're the ones that are, experiencing this. So we really want to get that information so that way we can compile it and share it with you. Another thing that Reynolds and Myers brought to the table, which is really cool, is, some of that third-party data, the stuff like the Google Analytics and the search optimizations that are out there. And, they compiled that information for us to be able to go over today a little bit. Just, a brief example of kind of what we've discovered through this over the last 18 months. Things have been up and down. It's interesting that there's been positive opportunities through COVID, as well as negative opportunities where it's almost split right down the middle, which I thought was pretty interesting. Jeff?
Yeah. So what's really interesting is the positive came largely from pent-up demand, and we'll get that into more of that in a moment. But with people staying home, with more people staying home, there was more demand. And the negative largely was not on the demand side, though definitely in some pockets that was a problem. The negative mostly came from supply chain issues, being able to get the products you want or the labor that you need to do the work. So even the negative wasn't necessarily a demand problem. Demand, for the most part, has increased over the last few years for bathroom remodels and remodeling in general.
Yeah, and even on our end over here at Best Bath, some of that positive stuff that came from this just was a great surprise. It provided us an opportunity to really streamline how we purchase, really working at some great relationships with our vendors and our partners out there to, get through some of this. By maintaining our lead times, we were able to kind of grow some new business that maybe we didn't have access to before because of those strong relationships with our vendors. It really allowed us to reach out and make sure we're having those connections that we've had, those long-term connections that have really worked well for us. And I think a lot of people out there also had the opportunity to do that. So this is a direct quote from some of those surveys, and we'll have a few of these throughout. This is saying in the first 4 to 5 months, it really stopped them in their tracks. It was an immediate stop. And towards the end of summer, took off like a rocket and have not slowed down since, busier than ever. Yet now materials are 5 times more expensive. Go figure. I love these direct quotes, Jeff.
Yeah, and I think the takeaway when I saw this quote was really how initially the stoppage and the slowdown, the impact was from from the fear, from the unknown. And as things settled down, people were able to sort of adapt and adjust, and then the demand for our services as an industry, I'm saying, really started skyrocketing.
Yeah, and I know, again, we even experienced areas that we thought were going to slow down ended up not slowing down, and areas that we didn't think were going to slow down did slow down, and then it shifted, and it really was changing very rapidly, and you had to be able to adjust quickly and be prepared to move when everything opened back up. And I think we saw that and we experienced that very rapidly as well.
Yeah, and I just think it's an example of there are different kinds of challenges, and I think so often, especially in my line of work where I'm very focused on sort of marketing and demand generation and these sorts of things, you really realize that that's only one of the challenges, right?
Yeah.
Like it really emphasizes that even if when things are good, it doesn't mean things are easy. You could find yourself working long hours, you find yourself unable to get the help and talent that you need to get the job done, those sorts of things, all those things that we're all very aware of.
Yeah, I think that's great. There's still some obstacles out there that are remaining. We're all dealing with the new variant, and there's new variants coming as well. We're dealing with Delta right now, and we thought we were in the clear, and then it just jumps right back. And so we're all working through that currently in this market we're in right now. We're still dealing with supply chain issues. We talked about this the other day. Not only was there supply chain issues just from COVID, but then there was all sorts of things happening with weather, with the crazy deep freeze that happened in Texas, which hurt petroleum, a gas outage over on the East Coast. All of these things are happening all at the same time.
Lumber challenges,
like all of this stuff has had an impact on all of our, materials getting in, the raw materials to build product. But then you talk about increased material costs, labor costs. The demand for labor is huge. Getting those people in to actually do the work is just as big as a problem as some of the supply chain issues.
Yeah, and I think the thing to keep in mind here is there are many causes, and it's a complex, sort of calculation here on the labor issue. But at a simple level, a lot of the people that were working in our industry, or would like take our industry jobs, might be their first job, or first or second job in. There's a lot of other opportunities now, things like Amazon warehouses, and when McDonald's is paying $20 an hour, we are now competing for a labor force that is especially sort of at the entry-ish level, that is much bigger than I guess what I'm saying is that the issues are much more complex than simply they're not available or don't want to work.
But the cool part is, we talked a lot about some of the problems. There's all sorts of opportunities. Like with every problem, in my experience, it brings more opportunity if you can figure out how to solve those problems. Governments are adjusting, making decisions quickly. Homeowners are changing how they purchase. Homeowners are more aggressive. Homeowners are, moving quickly as well. Employers are having to adjust how they hire, how they work with, like you said, entry-level employees maybe. There is still a ton of demand out there, not only in our industry where, it's worked out well for us, where we've been able to maintain our, record lead times. Some of our competitors haven't been able to. And so we've been able to kind of help pick up some of that business. It's happening all over. I was looking for roofing the other day, and there was almost an 8-month wait time for me to even consider getting product. So, there's still been pent-up demand. And then there's design opportunities for dealing with this labor shortage. You and I talked about this yesterday, Jeff, where, depending on what products you're using will also help you with your labor issues. If you are working with a product that maybe is a little bit easier to install, that means you may have less need for 4 or 5 people to do the job. You might be able to get away with 1 person to do it. So people are really looking at what products are using.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working in this industry for 25 years. I've never seen the level of innovation happening and sort of focus on the product development side where manufacturers are designing products to address the labor realities.
Yeah.
And I think one key there, though, is if you're a remodeler, is being able to sift through that, sort through that, and figure out what works, what doesn't, and sort of find the innovative products that can allow you to be on what I call the leading edge, but not necessarily the bleeding edge, meaning you're not like in danger or taking risk with companies that don't have, good warranties or a good reputation or whatever. But I think if you're paying attention and not sort of doing things the same old way just because it's always the way you've done it, I think there's a ton of opportunity there for improving your margins.
Well, and that even goes back to one of the very first slides we talked about, just those vendor relationships and really looking at who you're partnering with, who you want to have those long-term relationships with, who you can count on through some of the hard times, but who you can count on to help with some of these innovations. And this goes to even why we put these surveys out. We want to hear so that we know how we can support our customer base. And if we don't, take the steps to learn that from you, then we're just going to be kind of shooting dark. So that's why we really like sending these surveys out so we can learn what's currently happening in the market, but what's also kind of coming down the road.
Yeah, and I think this one, that's why there's so much optimism. And that's what this slide shows. Right now, most of the pros that we surveyed are definitely feeling positive about how things are going to go forward, moving forward. And, a lot of that comes from people working from home more permanently. I mean, one quote said, one of our survey participants said that he saw more opportunity because people are adding facilities and doing more remodels because they're working from home permanently. They've made the decision to shift permanently to working from home. You spend more time at home, you start looking around and going, oh, is this the best I can have in terms of my house or my bathroom, my kitchen or whatever? And the data, the third-party data supports this too. Smart water monitoring company Finn actually found that water use during the pandemic time has been up 21% overall. And that's, largely washing dishes, showers, and gardens. And showers themselves, of course, we're in the shower business, so we pay attention to that. Shower usage is up 16%. People are taking more showers. They're skipping the shower at the gym, or maybe they're just stressed out after a day of Zoom calls and need a hot shower. And that demand is making people say, or that desire or that usage is making people have more demand for remodels.
Well, and I think that, it shows positively 78%. I think we're experiencing that. Everybody's experiencing so much opportunity. It's just being able to act quickly and pay attention to the opportunity and shift your business to be able to handle the demand that's out there.
Yeah, and it's reinforced. I think it's like a cycle. It's a cycle. These stories are covered in the media about how everybody's doing this. People see those stories, and then it generates more demand. They start thinking, they get the FOMO, the fear of missing out. They start thinking, oh, everybody's remodeling, I should be remodeling. So those things sort of come together to reinforce the normalizing, reinvesting, and investing in your home.
I don't know. I feel like I should know that term, FOMO, fear of missing out. I really like that. I feel like
makes the world go around, Jason.
With all the hashtags and things I get from my teenage kids, I should know that one already.
Yeah, and like Jason had said, we looked at a lot of third-party data. That Fin research was one example, but we also looked a lot at how people were searching, what people were searching for on the internet to see if things lined up. And the simple fact is, these basic terms, the high-level terms, bathroom remodel, shower remodel, and sort of the related terms, they're up 140% over the last few years. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of searches a month. It's about 220,000 searches a month for those terms, in the US. So this is definitely supported by the data.
Well, and again, when we talked earlier, I personally last week was searching rustic bathrooms or farmhouse style bathrooms on Pinterest, or, really trying to find ideas and design ideas and things to do for some of my own projects of, when I'm sitting around with my wife and we're talking about some of the things we really want to do to our home and how we want to design it. And there's so many things at our fingertips right now. And, we've got HDTV on the background while you're on Pinterest, searching up all these terms and getting all these great ideas for how to do these modifications in your home.
And that shows up even in the data, Jason, because people get really specific. I use those generic terms, on this slide, right? Bathroom model, shower remodel. But the reality is the term small bathroom ideas with shower. So that's a detailed search, specific search. That's up 174%. The searches for that, 174% in the last few years. So I think it's interesting that people are using, they're being influenced by all these new channels, and they are more educated than ever, which is part of, both when we're selling and going through the sales process and marketing and trying to fill our funnel, create demand generation for our businesses. Something to think about, like what do we specifically specialize in that we should be targeting, what sort of language, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And like, this is, again, where, we can go even deeper to see how much of this is sort of design focused. Look at this. That's black bathroom faucets up 640%, and gold bathroom really close. Faucets. So like, these design trends, this is new. Like, there's always design trends, but very rarely do things come in sort of as fast as these trends have increased. This is really new because of the power of social media and HGTV and all those things you mentioned.
Well, and this goes back to, again, the importance of not only for in your own business, but like with what Bestbath does, being ahead of the game, doing these surveys, learning what's happening in the marketplace, learning what's hot right now, learning what's out there right now, either trending on social media, trending through Pinterest, trending through these third-party resources, but also kind of what's coming in the future, so you can be ahead of the game as well. Being able to know that this is coming. Maybe it's not black bathroom faucets, but maybe we're going to go back to bright pink in 3 years. Who knows? But being able to be ahead of the game a little bit as well.
For us, that, like you were saying earlier, that's a big reason we're always doing this research, is we're trying to understand it so we can stay out of the game, so we can add value to, Bestbath customers and, sort of know our customer's customer. And, I see he says that a lot of people are coming, ending up with him on his websites and social through Google searches. And I think that's another thing about thinking about this data. It's like, when you see these terms, how are you talking about these things on your website? How are you, using specific terms? And I'm not necessarily saying these specific ones. Your sort of mileage may vary, but how are you using this knowledge and this information to make people who are searching for these things in your area, make it easier for them to find you? Not to mention advertising and those things, if you're using digital advertising, which I know a lot of our dealers and other pro trade customers do.
Yeah. Well, this is just a great example. Like, I love that we included this. So this is a dealer of ours, J-Tech, out of Akron, Ohio. And funny enough, I just saw on their social media this morning, like 15 minutes ago on my Facebook page, they're celebrating 10 years in business. And, they've been a partner of ours for the entire 10 years that they've been around, and they've been a great partner of ours. And, they have shifted the way they've done business from 10 years ago to now, where they have this amazing showroom and they're really design focused. And this is one that they did for a customer that was very design oriented. This is one of our shower systems that they just went above and beyond with the different things you can do. But then when they were done with it, they went crazy on social media with it. Their Instagram is one of the best out there for being able to see some cool design ideas, which then went streaming to other different social medias out there. I know they're big on Houzz, they're big on Facebook. And so they're really utilizing these sometimes free services to really promote their product and show what can be done. And then all of a sudden, when someone like HGTV picks it up, now they're sharing it and somebody else is sharing it. And it just opens up the opportunities that are out there.
Yeah. And the other thing is, don't sleep on the fact that some people are quite literally shopping on these websites. Like they are looking for something to buy. I mean, this is off of the bathroom angle. I heard of a tattoo artist who draws a tattoo and puts it up on Instagram, and then it's sold as a piece of art. Hey, you can buy this tattoo. One person will get it for $1,600, this sort of thing. And people are doing the same thing, or there's at least an opportunity for you to do similar things in our space, right? Like, look at this beautiful shower. This could be yours too, sort of thing. And just expressing that to your customers so they know it's easy to take action.
Yeah, I think it's great. This one is a pretty cool one. It's kind of a tricky one because every time we talked about it, I kind of got stumbled on it. But 60% of our dealers and trade professionals that we met with believe that budgets are not going to change. Well, 26% believe that budgets are actually going to increase. Again, this is just based off of some of that survey that you sent out there. They're seeing things are not going to actually go down. They believe their budgets are going to stay the same, but there's a big number that think budgets are going to continue to go up.
Yeah, part of this message is that where the general population was a little more pessimistic or a little unsure, the Best Bath dealers in particular, it just stood out. That segment of our survey group said that they were a little more optimistic. About almost a third thought budgets would increase, and like you said, the vast majority of the rest thought they wouldn't change. Whereas some other people had a little bit more pessimism. I think that's interesting, and I think a lot of that has to do with the accessibility market and sort of the medical needs market, which we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second.
Well, and I briefly mentioned this before too, just as a tool that you can take away from this. If you're not offering financing to your customers, that's an instant way to increase your budget. We have 2 or 3 finance companies that I think we partnered with that are out there for you to utilize and reach out and build a relationship with. But when you offer financing, it's proven that, the budgets, if they come in with a $10,000 budget, it may jump up to $15,000 because it's only $40 a month or whatever the numbers end up being. It does allow for people to really get the bathroom of their dreams or kitchen of their dreams or whatever you're doing when you're offering that financing. So I think it's, if you're not doing that yet, that's a tool that you can look into that's really easy to implement.
Yeah, I wonder if that's part of the reason for the optimism about Best Bath dealers, if they have access to that. Yeah.
Have access to the financing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is all you. Tell me about this.
So this is just an example of a chart. This is more on this black faucets thing, not to beat the black faucets thing to death, but we're trying to just illustrate the growth. This is, just to be clear, this is the numbers on the left are not search numbers. It's an indexed data. So 100 represents the maximum searches during the period, and 0 represents the minimum number of searches for the period, not the actual numbers of those searches. I have actually probably tell you, I have the data on the actual number of searches for this term are right around 25,000 a month, maybe a little bit less, but you can see the real message here is look at this growth. This is that movement forward, slow and steady, and then sort of accelerated. It may not really look like it because of the trend line, but it's actually accelerated there during the core of the pandemic, and then is starting to drop off, which we would expect. And this black faucets thing. This is all really part about a bigger trend, which is one of our survey responders described it as simple, clean, accessible design, and that is sort of the mega trend that we're seeing here, that the design and the product's popularity that are all fitting into.
Well, and I'm assuming probably JTech is on this because they typically join all of these webinars. But if I were JTech and I had that beautiful trending black faucet shower system that was already trending on Instagram and Pinterest, and I hear this information, maybe I didn't hashtag it with black faucet. Maybe I didn't And that's an opportunity to go back in there and make sure you're using some of these key search terms, because it's not only going to bring up the black faucet, it's going to bring up your whole business. It's going to bring up this beautiful shower. It's going to bring up, that shower can be installed in one day, but it still looks that beautiful, that it's also a curbless unit so that it's got easy access. So all these things that one shower and that one picture offers, just by having some of the hashtags on there, like a black faucet fixtures or flat black. So
yeah, and there are other design, there's a lot, so much data around this in terms of other hot design trends. I mean, we just picked one as an example, but floating vanity is up 250%. Smart toilet seat is up 287%. Bathroom wallpaper is up 172%. Like, you see, the searches that are up are design focused, and we're not trying to beat that too much, but it definitely is what the sort of the driving force. Aesthetics are the driving force right now in what consumers are searching for.
Yeah, and it's interesting depending on where they're at.
Yeah, I mean, this example, what you're seeing is on the left you have bathroom faucet, the bathroom faucet search, and it's spread out on the coast and basically all the major metro areas. So wherever you have states where there's a big metro area, you see these more sort of fashion-oriented terms really taking off. And then smart toilet seat, just as an example, I think it's just funny. It's like where all the tech hubs are, right? It's a hot term. It's growing. It started with a small denominator, but it's growing quickly. But it's, it's Seattle, Bay Area, Austin, Miami, New York, the sort of more tech hubs, which I just thought was interesting.
Well, they got to sync it to their Alexa and have their smart toilet sync to the Alexa, so that way they can voice activate it, right?
Absolutely. So I think, it's just really important to remember that they're not consistent, that searches change geographically. And I love this, that we're showing a smart toilet seat just in case you don't really know.
Well, I don't know about the smart toilet seat, and this thing looks amazing. And I love that you can add it to, it's a lot of things too that you're kind of seeing out there. And it goes back to kind of looking at opportunities that maybe require less labor. Because then, if you buy a whole bidet system, for example, now you need a plumber, you need all these different things to get it installed, where people are searching for things like this add-on feature to their toilet, where they can add it on to something that's already existing for pretty low impact, which is interesting to me as well.
Yep.
These are, again, just some of the more fun comments that we got throughout these surveys. We're seeing people moving away from the big box store fixtures, the tub conversions, going towards the larger showers, accessibility and easier access. And you said this a lot already, Jeff, more sleek and modern. Like accessibility, sleek, modern seems to be kind of a theme we're hearing a lot about.
Exactly. And I mean, that's picked up on here, right? Where you see again almost an equal split among our survey respondents between the accessibility or aesthetics being the trigger for people contacting them. So, I see in the chats, people are talking about how, a lot of their business is driven by medical changes and these sorts of things, illness. And that's definitely, that's 46% of our respondents said the same thing. That is the trigger. But the other side of it is aesthetic. And I just think this is an important thing, because it's no longer acceptable, or maybe I should put it another way. It really gives you a competitive advantage if you can provide functional products that give people, more universal access, of course, all those accessibility terms, while adding the aesthetics, and we can win on that alone.
Yeah, well, and it's in this particular chart here that you're showing, brought up something just for me that we even did again, this is kind of back to being one step ahead, trying to future plan your long-term strategy. Megan Wiltanen, our CEO and owner of Bestbath, she did a webinar on this, I believe, with you guys, or partnered with in some form where you guys helped us host it, about this specific topic on accessibility, driving remodeling, almost 2 years ago. I know Chanel probably at the end of this chat will share a link, but we'll have a link to all of our Bestbath Pro Remodeler series webinars. And she did one on this specific topic 2 years ago, which is just, again, we're trying to be ahead of the game. future plan, have long-term strategy in place. And, you know, if you haven't got to hear Megan on her webinar, I would go listen to that when this one gets wrapped up.
Yeah, again, this one's more interesting because the more general searches for the term bathroom remodel, you can see they're up. They sort of peaked during the pandemic. At the beginning of this year, they start to drop off, but it's much more broadly shared. If you remember, you know, how smart toilet seats was like sort of the big tech cities driving that. This is everywhere. These are terms everywhere. And I mean, the lesson I take away is just the importance of really knowing your market. You know, that you at the end of the day, there's the broad terms and broad sort of selling of a remodel concept. But if you can know your market and know what your market's looking for and have your finger on that pulse, it really gives you a leg up.
Yeah, I totally agree. Same thing here, where again, it's kind of broad across the US, that curbless shower, walk-in shower. We talked about this and we'll see it here on the next slide as well. You know, just all the different ways people are searching for this information.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting to compare, Jason, is if you compare those generic terms of remodel, you know, in those terms, that I said that was right around 220,000 searches a month, somewhere around there. Yeah. Terms like walk-in shower, curbless shower, barrier-free shower, all these terms, these more specific ones are about 100,000. They're almost half of the broader terms. And what's interesting about that, if you think about that as a marketer, and if you're on this call, you know, those are people that have much higher intent. They already have researched the product. They know what they're looking for generally. They have some idea. It's not some, you know, with the term bathroom remodel, we can't tell what they're interested in. We don't know if it's literally a paint job that's doing it, if it's a rusted shower, you know, or some functional need. But with these terms, we know what they're looking for. And I think the lesson is, if you can stay focused on these sort of high intent keywords where they show that people really know what they want, that will reduce the rest of the sales cycle once they come in.
Well, and you know, you jump to this fun slide. There's so many terms out there, you know, really getting to know who your target market is, who you're going after, and using the right terminology to target that target market. You know, you've got aging in place, curbless, curbed, Scandinavian, universal design, wheelchair, ADA, like, you know, there's so many things you can have your marketing plan and your social media posts hashtag as, but you want to make sure you're really utilizing the right terminology for the customer you're targeting.
Yeah, and there's such variation. These terms, you know, there's a lot of overlap. We may all know as professionals some of the differences, but the general consumer doesn't. I mean, some of these terms are fashionable or not fashionable. You know, it's very confusing and people get lost in it. So part of this is back to identifying who you actually want to sell to, who your target is, and make sure you know them and what language they're using. Because a good example is, you know, handicap is a term that certain people will use and other people will be offended by. Will view it, you know, it sort of has the opposite. It's a repellent term because they don't want to think of themselves that way.
Well, and for those that know me, they love, you know, I'm known to kind of throw out stories here and there about my poor family, and I throw them under the bus all the time. But my dad's going to turn 70 this year, and he works harder than anybody I know. I can't keep up with him. My brother can't keep up with him. He's a hard worker. They just purchased a house that they plan on living in for the rest of their life. That's their forever home. However, if I try to talk to him about him needing, you know, you need something barrier-free, Dad, so that way you can be safe in your home, I've just now hurt his ego. He doesn't need that. So you got to really be careful about how you're using this terminology to make sure you're targeting your avatar. If you're going after that type of customer, if you've identified a 70-year-old married couple as your avatar of who you want to target, you know, you want to make sure you, kind of like you said, you're not using terminology that may actually push them away from wanting to work with you. So, you know, that's why you've got cool terminology like curbless, curbed, residential, you know, zero entry, things that maybe aren't going to hurt somebody's ego, for example, like my dad.
Yeah, and I suppose the key takeaway here, Jason, is that when we talk about a changing world, part of the changing world isn't just what people are searching for, but it's literally how they're thinking about it, how they're describing the language. And if your website and if your marketing materials are using language that is simply out of date, the language could be out of date and out of fashion, just like the products can.
It could be the exact same product, but you just have the wrong name on it.
Exactly.
It's the wrong terminology. This is great. I mean, just going back to everything we've talked about, take all this data and, run with it.
Yeah, I think, these are some of the key learnings. I know we've just sort of run through a lot of different things and thrown a bunch of numbers, but I think the key learnings are, one, make hay while the sun shines. The opportunity and the pent up demand isn't going to last forever, though it looks pretty good on the horizon. But our view is, between sort of the baby boomer wave, the pandemic wave, now is the time to get in there and make some business happen. So stay focused. Two, pay attention to design and tech trends. Homes are only getting smarter. So, just knowing what is happening out there, even if you're not going to get involved, or, you might decide you need a partner to help you put in that smart floor heating system or whatever, like that may be out of what you want to do, out of the scope of what you want to do. But, you need to know it. You need to know the design and tech trends, because they are changing constantly. And finally, there's just a ton of opportunity still in accessibility. I mean, Jason, maybe you can talk about what you're seeing there.
No, they're really well. And just I'll back up a little bit too, like the tech trends. My son has a valve system that he can turn on the shower from his bed with Alexa. We did a little remodel, and he can literally say, Alexa, warm up my shower to 106 degrees. Wow. That's what's happening out there right now. I don't have that in my shower, but my 17-year-old son does. But it's out there, and people are using it, and that's what people are looking for. So I think it's important that you do pay attention to that. And
and related on that, I'll just say, I mean, when I built a house a few years ago, I was thinking about putting all, smart switches and things. And I started talking to my electrician about it, and I just got blank stares. Like, it was like he didn't know how to do the stuff that connected the stuff. He can install the switches, and that's it. So I just think, in the future, knowing about it's important, and then having a team that you're surrounded with that can help you execute on it is important.
Well, and to what you were just mentioning about that, lots of opportunities and accessibility. Everybody is really trying to figure out how to best market that product, how to tap into it. There's so much opportunity out there for people that are wanting to, remain in their homes and stay there, and not have to sell their home to go into a facility when they're older. And so there is so much opportunity in, making sure you're marketing it the right way. Again, targeting your avatar. And when I say avatar, that's knowing your customer, knowing who you're going after, down to, their age, their demographic, where they live, what their income status is. You got to have that message dialed in, and then, having that right marketing in place, so that way you can have the right message for them. I had talked to a company the other day. It was a $250 million a year remodeling company. So a very large company, and 10% of their business is in accessibility. And that's one of their major focuses, is growing that, because it's, for them, just so much opportunity to capture some of that market. Wow. This, again, getting kind of diving into the dirt a little bit, like some short-term opportunities are out there, is just getting out there and sell. Like, sometimes I even get distracted with so much stuff I need to do over here or do over here. If I just get back to the basics of picking up the phone and selling, getting back in touch with the customers that have reached out, the person that gets back to them the soonest is more than likely the one that's going to win the job. So just get back to the basics and make sure you can get out there and sell. That also may mean you have to try to find some more help, try to find some salespeople, whatever that means. But there's so much opportunity right now. People just aren't getting called back. I have my own remodels going on, and I just can't I'll call 12 remodelers and I'll maybe hear back from 2. So that's just a short-term immediate thing that you can do. Selling the benefits, selling, how our shower may be different than other people's showers, selling, how they can have a better lifestyle with this type of product, or how, the remodel can be a shorter term remodel. So really selling the benefits. And examine your margins. I think this is a big one. For those of you that have met our founder, Gary Multanen, and had the opportunity to take part in one of our dealer days, Gary used to get up there and really beat on the desk about pay yourself what you're worth, know what your margins are, know what you deserve, know what you should be making, make sure that you're getting the margins that you want, and then invest where you want to grow. Again, if you know your avatar and you know who your target market is, and you know that's what you want to go after, then you can invest in how to get that market. If you're just kind of doing a peanut butter spread of I'm going to hit everybody, it's harder to dial that in. So if you can really spend some time knowing who you want to go after and be an expert in that, and be a resource in that, I think is a big one. That way you can be, known as the expert for maybe accessibility in your marketplace.
Yeah, and Jason, this get out and sell idea, I'll just say, I totally agree that we see people who are quick to respond, able to close more deals. But interestingly, right now, we're also able to see that consumers are more accepting of a backlog than ever before. So they're willing to wait. So selling now, putting the energy in the selling now and getting the scheduling, there's a lot of opportunity where in the past, those backlogs always need to be relatively short to keep new customers interested. That is extended right now. If you come off as responsive and reliable, and they know you're not going to go disappearing, in the next 2 months.
Some of the old school games are kind of wearing out. So some of the games of like, I'm going to sell the project, I'm going to drop off the material, but I'm not going to show up for a month. People aren't really putting up with anymore. If you can go out there and sell the project, have honest lead times, tell them, set the expectations. Like you said, people are willing to wait. I'm willing to wait 5 months for windows because I know the day my windows are coming in, I know when they're going to start the job. Even if it meant I had to wait 5 months, they told me up front, there wasn't any games. And so I also went with the company that responded to me first, showed up at my house and sold me on it and gave me honest lead time.
Yeah, it's about being able to paint the picture, give the roadmap. Let people know what they can expect. That the uncertainty is what scares customers away, not the wait.
And the continued follow-up. I just want to touch on that. Like, just the touch base. And there's quite a few people on this call that I know are great at it. Just the, hey, I know we're not going to start for another 3 weeks. I just want to touch base with you, make sure we're still on schedule. That alleviates all those fears.
Yeah, and on the margins comment, I just wanted to say that I think it's really important. We need to be more sophisticated than we have traditionally been in this business. We need to look at margins more holistically, meaning, include labor costs, include your time and your hassle and callbacks and returns and all that stuff. If all you're looking at is like, what's the cheapest product I can put in there? That does not necessarily increase your margins. The issue is, how do you push that top line? One of the issues is, how do you push the top line? How do you capture the value from offering better products?
I love that quick little Bestbath plug, right? Lower callbacks, quick installs. I love it.
I mean, there are other companies too. But yeah, I mean, I just think that in the past, I'm talking to somebody who was raised in this business, and my dad is a contractor and all those things. We used to look at it. It's so common to basically not think of your time as valuable. Like, you calculate everything, but for some reason, the 100 phone calls chasing whatever down or doing whatever doesn't get calculated as part of the expense, and that needs to change.
Yeah, I agree. Long-term opportunities, kind of same thing. When we do these surveys, it's not only for our short-term what's going on, but how can we be ahead of the game? Making sure you're partnering with vendors that give you that competitive advantage. Jeff gave me a great leeway of, with Bestbath products, for example, you have a lot less callbacks. Your warranty is a lot less. Your install is faster. Like, all of these things that are going to give you an advantage, not only with your labor and being able to find laborers to work with you, but also with your customers as well. That map that he showed earlier and seeing how there's so many different trends depending on what region you're in on, I think that's just a great visual to, if you're in a San Francisco market, that tech stuff is going to be a lot bigger trend versus if you're in Nebraska, it's going to be something different. So knowing your region, knowing what is coming, knowing more than likely those trends, we joke here in Idaho where I'm at, we're usually 10 years behind California on clothing and everything. So that means a lot of this tech stuff is coming here to Idaho. So we need to be prepared for the long term if this was my region. And then specializing, being that expert in your area, being that expert in what you're focused on, and also specializing in who you're going after. I can't stress that enough. I love the term knowing your avatar, like knowing down to what age, what, income, all of that stuff will really help you have a good strategic plan in place of who to go after.
And how this all fits together is if we go back to the data and the terms and all those things, if you are specialized, then you know which terms to use, or you learn which terms to use. You learn which marketing channels to use. You learn which products to offer. If you're not specialized at all, and the degree of specialization may vary. I mean, I'm very aware of that, right? Depending on your market and your expertise and your own interest and passion. But the customers will always prefer a specialist over a generalist. So being able to convey your expertise really becomes key to that. And hopefully like this data and sort of this information helps you think through, there's no right answer. There's no global answers. We have people from all over the country on this call today. But you can start thinking about these things in a way to frame your positioning, what your specialization is for your audience. And find a lot more success. And frankly, make your life a lot easier. It's still scary at first, but your life gets easier when you're a pro.
Well, and I can't stress enough too, when these surveys come out, whether they're from us or from, other manufacturers or NARI or whatever associations you're part of, share information, answer the surveys, reach out to us anytime. Like if you want more information on this, we're always looking for more ways we can bring content. So, we're talking about definitions, for example. If, you really want to hear more about definitions, let us know, give us feedback so that way we can put more content out there for you that's valuable. And I know every other manufacturer and every other association, they're always looking for that information as well. So when you see these and we ask for feedback, let us know so that way we can create more great content for you.
And, the pace of change just does not stop. And I hope that takeaway comes through with these charts going up and to the right. It's like the change never stops. And it's really important that people keep learning.
Yep. And this is where we've got our great link for bestbath.com pros. I think we have 3 other Best Bath professional remodeler series on there currently. And then this one will be added on there as well. And I think this is the fun part where we get some of the question and answers that who knows what's going to come out.
One question that's up, that's the bottom line. Maybe you can, does Best Bath offer installer training?
So when we're working with our dealers, we definitely, when we set up a new dealer, we definitely have some installation training. A lot of times we'll have a regional sales manager when he's in your area be able to come out and do some install training. On our website as well, under resources, we have a bunch of new installation videos that are a little bit more up to date. And we're in the process of completely redoing those as well. So on our install videos, it's really cool because you've got maybe an 8-minute video on how to install a barrier-free pan. And then you've got an 8-minute video on how to install a wood bottom pan and how to, they're separate videos. So that way you don't have to sit there and watch 40 minutes of videos. You can just kind of watch a quick little clip on how to do the barrier-free pan, the wall systems, the trim kits. And so we do have those as well available on our website.
Okay, I think we got our technical issue figured out. Sorry about that.
No,
Always something, right?
it wasn't me.
It wasn't you. You did good, Jason. So a question that we had was, what are some of the biggest obstacles our dealers have been facing during COVID? And maybe some success stories.
Well, I'll just Jason, I'll just throw out quick data on that, and then you can do the success story. I just say the biggest obstacles were really around supply chains and labors, like getting the product and the labor associated with installing.
Yeah, I'm going to just agree to that. I mean, some of the things I've heard just from all over and some of the opportunities that's created for us is, people having issues getting product in their hands in order to complete the jobs, I mentioned it before, my window job is 5 months out because it took 5 months for me to get windows. That was one of our competitive advantages, is we maintained our lead time. And I can honestly go back to some of our strong vendor relationships with our raw materials is what allowed us to maintain our strong lead times, where, since we are a family-owned company, we've worked with the same vendors for so long, they did what they could to really take care of us to make sure we had a smaller impact on our raw materials. And so we were able to really support our dealers and our partners out there, making sure we maintained our lead times. But that was some of the biggest, pushback that we were hearing about, is just not being able to get product, which then turned into a great opportunity for us because they came to our doorstep trying to figure out how to get product when some of our competitors maybe couldn't. Success stories, I think, it just goes right to that, people needing to get some of this work done. There's times when it's for cosmetic, it's times when it's for, people are designing their home, but there's also times when there's medical needs for these type of products. And if somebody has an 8-week lead time, and there's in the industry, there can be, you can't be discharged from the hospital until you have a safe space at home to take care of yourself. So there's times where there's a medical need for product to be delivered in a timely fashion, and people can't wait 8 weeks. So, I think that's a big success story, that we still have been able to ship product the next day on some of our need it now packages for those needs.
That's interesting, because as I'm sorry, I'm like distracted. I'm looking down at some of the source data here, and it backs that up, that people, another area of success is the sort of fast turnaround. So the need it now plus easy to install, where they're doing bathroom remodels or at least shower replacements in just a few days, between 1 and 3 days versus a week of being in home. So the ability to sort of turn around a project quickly once you're in, looks like people have really cashed in on that.
Yeah. Back to you, Chanel.
Sorry, I had to find my unmute button. Another question that we had was, what kind of changes are we seeing in the market when it comes to walk-in tub requests versus showers? Have you seen that shift during COVID?
I paused for a second in case Jeff had data, but.
Well, give me a second, and I will find some more specific data on it. I mean, it's just on a quick, sort of quick examination of it. There's definitely a larger emphasis on showers than tubs. I mean, it's just clear that showers are dominating over tubs. Tubs are clearly a niche market.
Yeah, and that's been our experience even long before COVID. I can't say that I've seen an increase. And if anything, because there are so many walk-in tubs manufactured overseas, I would say there's been a lot of issues with people being able to supply their walk-in tubs, because so many do come from overseas, even if they sometimes tend to say American put together or American made, but that just means they're assembled here. So many parts come from overseas with the walk-in tub industry that I think there has been a backlog of walk-in tubs that were sold, and it was long lead times in order to get those in.
Yeah.
And just like normally, even pre-COVID, for showers, typically you'd see 40 showers for every one walk-in tub, just even internally here. So
yeah, and it's interesting, because I'd say if another success story is more people marketing tub replacements.
Yeah.
So converting from tubs to showers is a generally bigger opportunity than walk-in tubs.
Yep.
Awesome. There was a comment that Raymond made that he's seeing price increases just kind of across the board when it comes to supplies. And that's why it's important for him to specify product that he knows is of good quality, because he's paying a premium for everything. How are we differentiating ourselves in the market with our competitors?
As far as our product, I think just one of the big things that we continue to do is as far as how we manufacture our product, we try to make sure we're manufacturing the top product that's out there. We want to make sure when it shows up to your door that it's showing up without damage. It doesn't happen every time, but we really try to do our best to make sure that when it comes out of that crate, it's ready to install. Because, there's nothing more frustrating when you pull it out and you have to wait a day for a repair or wait a week for a new wall. So we, little things like that we pay attention to make sure that when it shows up, it's ready to go. Once it's installed, you're not going to have issues, those callback issues. Things to help the installation move quicker. So that way you can get it done, like Jeff said, in a day is a big competitive advantage when you utilize like our trim kit or our window trim kit. All of these things we put thought into how to make things easier for you doing your installation. And then when it comes to the customer experience, we want that shower to last the life of their home if they want it to. So it's definitely made to last that lifetime.
Thank you. And that's all the questions we have, unless there's anything else you guys would like to add.
No, I think this has just been a lot of fun. I just want to thank Jeff for participating. I know it's an hour out of your day or more when we put planning into it. So it's been a lot of fun doing it with you. And hopefully there's been some good information. I do want to just stress, give us feedback, give us ideas of what you would like to hear more of for those that are on the call, just so we can really create some good content for you.
Yeah, we are committed to serving the industry. So however we can do that, please communicate and let us know.
And we finished on time. I think 3 minutes.
That's a big feat. Thanks again, guys. Remember, we'll send out an email with the recording and address any of the questions you might have had, and also throw some resources in those emails too. So feel free to keep adding questions or feedback, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks again, everybody. Thanks for joining.